Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the podcast by EO Nashville for and by entrepreneurs. This is where we talk to fellow EO Nashville members about the struggles that they encounter, the wins, the losses. How do they get through the inevitable things that we encounter in business? It's not as easy as we make it look sometimes. We're here to talk about all that. And with me, my partner in crime, as always, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Eric, thanks for having me once again. This is always fun.
Always a good time. And we've got a new set once again.
We got a new set. Yeah, it's evolving. It's something new every time. Like when I go and watch these and I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's in frame. That's really retarded.
Yeah,
like, why did I do that?
What if we could fix that?
So we just keep changing it.
I'm going to keep wearing the same t-shirt though.
Hey, perfect. You're looking good, man.
Thanks, man.
I got to get you to do your pull-ups again. I'm going to
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
What are you up to now?
I haven't done any more since I was here the last time.
Okay, we'll get a test.
I'm under 220 now. So I'm good.
He's evolving just like the set.
But this episode is about Kedran Brush. I almost butchered it. Who is your company is Brand A25.
Yes.
Relatively new to EO?
Yes, 2 years.
Okay. Well,
Love it.
Yeah. There's so many of us that sometimes it's hard to know somebody who's been around for 2 years. So welcome to EO.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
How's your experience been so far?
Oh, I love it. I was really interested in EO because my entire career before starting the company was spent in the corporate world. And what drove me to EO is I was craving the like-minded strategic thinkers that I missed in the corporate world. And so I was looking for that interaction and that engagement with like-minded people who had, taken a hard right and decided to do something different and started their own careers. And I was just eager to learn and meet new people. And it's been wonderful. Can't say enough about it.
Well, that's good. That was unpaid. I guess you pay to say these things, right?
No, totally off the cuff, I promise, and heartfelt.
Well, good. And so we're both in the marketing business, and this is really the first time we've met in person.
Yep.
So I have a number in my company's name, and yours is Brand A25. How did that arise?
So interesting story. The co-founder and myself, her name is Cindy Baker. We were training for the full marathon and we were lamenting about what our next challenge was going to be after we finished the marathon. She came up with base jumping, which I immediately ruled out. I was like, I have 2 kids. I'm not base jumping. We jumped out of airplanes together, but that's where I drew the line was base jumping. And I said, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just start the company? We've been talking about it for years. She and I had worked together in 2 corporate jobs, and this was our second corporate job. We were working together. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, okay. And it was at mile 8 1/4 that we made that decision. I remember it was a February, Saturday afternoon. It was pouring down rain. It was freezing. And we were training and complaining about having to train. And when we made the decision, it was mile 8 1/4 that.
So I was saying A25, it's 825.
825.
Yeah. I mean, my Southern accent, you probably couldn't tell.
Brand 825.
That's awesome.
So that's
were you guys having a conversation while you were running?
We were complaining about running in the cold and the rain. So yes. And to take our mind off of it, we just started talking about, all right, what are we going to do next? And that's how
do you feel like a sense of new energy when you kind of made that decision? Did you, because a lot of times when you are struggling with the decision, you finally decide, you suddenly things are seem more free. You feel like lighter and.
I felt very committed and determined. So I am a decisive person by nature. And I don't, I do my research. I'll think about stuff. I'm a big list person, so I pro and con it. And but once I make up my mind, I go because I subscribe to And I think this is what really fueled my decision to jump from the corporate world, which provides a certain level of security and stability. I was raising 2 children, had to put 2 kids through college. And so I was in a C-level position for a technology firm. So, and I liked what I did and I loved the people I did it with, but I had this yearning, this dream to own a business. And people that I had worked with probably for a good 10 years prior to starting the company would always ask me, when are you going to start your own company? When are you going to start your own company? So it was just in the back of my mind. It was just like this burn that I had. So once I said the words out loud and made the commitment, I was like, all right, let's go. Because I subscribe to the thought process of I'd rather try and fail than not try at all.
Yeah.
So it was just this determination. So we ran the marathon in April and started the company June 1st. And we started it on the side because quite honestly, again, I didn't know if I could make a go of it. I did have 2 children to raise, and so broke from the corporate world in 2018, landed a couple of big clients between the decision of starting the company and when I jumped from the corporate world, that kind of made me think, okay, I can make a go of this. And I was a chief marketing officer in the corporate world, so it was an easy transition. And I love all things marketing. So just jumped into the deep end.
Was it hard finding your first couple of clients?
Our first big client was actually Steeplechase. And,
oh, wow, that's fun.
So it was an incredible experience. It tested a lot. It tested us because I was a chief marketing officer by day and then an entrepreneur by night for 2 years. And it literally about put me in the funny farm. I mean, that's when I was like, okay, something's got to give. About midway through 2017, I was like, all right, I have to make a decision. And I am a big list. I'm a goal-oriented person. So every January 1st, I take out pen and paper and I write my goals for the year. Some of them are big, like run a marathon. And some of them are, hey, you need to clean out the attic. I tried to do a nice little balance. And that year, January 1st, 2018, I took out an index card after I finished writing my goals, took out an index card and I wrote the date 12/31/18 and I taped it to my vanity and mirror. So every morning when I got up, I looked at that date, and every night when I went to bed, I looked at that date. And the commitment I made to myself is I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what path I'm going to take, but by 12/31/18, I'm going to jump. Like I'm going to do it. And so did a lot of praying, did a lot of soul searching. It was very scary because what I prayed for, I was like, God, please make me smart enough to see the signs. Like I believe everything happens for a reason, but there are people that come in and out of your life and there are opportunities that happen in your life. Good and bad, things that happen that I believe are signs that, if you're just observant enough, and sometimes if you're just still enough, it'll come to you. So, went about my way, living life, going to work, was doing the company, and things just kept coming, just kind of kept happening. And in my corporate world, they came to me 3 times that year. They came to me in first quarter, they came to me in second quarter, and they said, hey, we want you to take on a bigger role. And we want you to, I was running all of marketing, and they said, we want you to take over all of product management, which was like taking on another 300 people. And we want you to run this. And I kept going, and the corporate office was not located here in Nashville. And my get out of jail free card, as I called it, was I'm not moving. I can't move until my youngest son graduates from high school. Well, he was about to graduate in May. So I knew my runway was running out. And so I got called to the corporate office in August. They sat down and they said, okay, really need you to do this. And throughout my corporate career, I had moved every time they asked me to move. I moved 4 times in 7 years. I took every job. I was just climb the corporate ladder kind of person, very driven and do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is the sign. Like maybe me starting my own company is not the path I'm supposed to be on. They were just so, we need you to do this. We need you to do this. We need you to do this. And they said, and they were about to have a changing of the guard at the CEO level. And I was meeting with the existing CEO and the incoming CEO. And he said, I want you to take this job and do it for 2 years. And then I'm going to make you the first female. My plan is to make you the first female COO in the company's history, which would have just, paved the way. And I just sat there and I should have just been over the moon. And I was like, this is not my passion. Mm. It's not can I do the job? Yes, it's not my passion. And so what I asked them, I said, well, I'm about to go out of town for a week on business. Let me get back from this trip and I'll come back here and we'll sit down. This, affects a lot of my team. I have some questions. And so we agreed to meet in a week and I went back to corporate. And I think they thought that I was coming back to negotiate. And what happened to me on the business trip, I was away. I was in my hotel room. I was working and we were trying to land this one client that would have given us a little bit of a parachute to jump financially. And we hadn't heard. It was in contract stage, hadn't heard. And I remember the night before I flew out, I remember sitting quietly. I was alone in my house and sitting on the couch, and I thought, I just have to have faith. I have to have, that's all I kept hearing in my mind. Have faith, have faith. And so the next day I'm travel out of town. I'm sitting in the hotel room and it's just over replaying in my mind, have faith, have faith. And I called Cindy and I said, I've made a decision. I'm going to jump. And we had not heard back on the contract. And I said, if you don't want to, I totally understand. And she was like, nope. All right, I'm in. I'm like, okay. I said, we'll figure it out. We just have to have faith. And if this contract doesn't come through, it's okay. Another one will. We'll figure it out. And an hour later, I get an email from the CEO of that company with the signed contract attached to it. And I opened it up and he said, are you ready? Let's go. And I just had this unbelievable calm come over me. And so I called her back and I said, we got it. We landed the contract and let's go, And so I flew back, went to corporate, and I think they thought, okay, she's going to negotiate, she's got questions or whatever. And I resigned. And they couldn't believe it. And I told them, I said, I am so grateful for this opportunity. I'd been with them almost 8 years. So grateful for the opportunity. Love this company, love the people. But this is not my passion. My dream, I have to try. I'd rather try and fail than never try at all. I said, because if I do this, I know me. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to fix what you want me to fix. I'm going to take it to the next level, and I'm going to blink, and 8 years will have gone by, and I never would have lived my dream. And that's not a risk I'm willing to take. Mm. And so that was at the beginning of September. And so I stayed on, did their budget, drafted the job description for my replacement, helped them vet it. And the last day in that office was 12/31/18.
Wow.
That's how you tell a story.
That's a great story.
You should be in marketing.
I should be in marketing, right? Marketers are storytellers. Yeah. So So that's it. And I jumped, and it's been an incredible ride.
What a risk to do steeplechase though.
Oh,
Like a local brand that that's a lot of pressure, because a lot of times you're doing out of town clients that you don't really see and really experience. So that was kind of a bold move to even take. It
was, and it really pushed us to our limits. Because what we found as that heated up, because a project like that, an account like that, it's 12 months of planning. Even though it's a one-day event, it's so ginormous, and it has so many different arms and legs and people involved in it, and just the community in and of itself, that you're always working on it. So it took, I took my vacation when I needed to take vacation to be somewhere for that. I took vacation and did that. And then we worked around the clock. We worked at night. We worked on the weekends, that sort of thing. So it was a lot. It was a lot of fun. Great people.
So navigating, like switching into wearing the CEO role now, right? How is that different in terms of your work life?
Well, I think most entrepreneurs would agree with this statement that, they always tell you entrepreneurship is so hard. It's so hard. I think that is the grossest understatement. I don't care how much you prepare for it. It is 1,000 times harder than you think it's going to be, because I don't think you ever turn it off, for me anyway. So some of the differences from coming from a corporate world, and I spent my entire career. So we officially started the company in 2016. So we're 8.5 years into it, which is crazy because it goes by like that. But you have to wear all the hats. In the corporate world, you're like, oh, well, there's a finance department I can call, or an HR department, that you're all of it. And you never turn it off. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do something different was because I wanted the challenge, and I liked the variety, versus doing marketing for one corporation. Now I get to do it for all different types of companies, sizes and industries, and just what you get to learn and the people you get to meet is phenomenal. But it's hard to be all of the things. And I think the thing that, for me, you never turn off, is I never stop worrying about my people, the team. And by that, I say the team, when you have a small team in a small company, and the people that choose to join you have entrusted not only their careers, but a lot of times their families' livelihoods are in your hands. And that is an enormous responsibility. So to me, to make sure that we have the right culture and the right health plans and 401ks and all of the things. And are they okay? And do they understand that this is work and this is life? And we try really hard to make sure that people don't get those two reversed, because I have many times throughout my career.
What was the biggest decision that you had to navigate starting the business, after starting the business? And
I would say probably making sure the selection on who we had join the team. There's a lot of people with the skill set, but it's the cultural personality fit. And we made the decision pre-pandemic, actually, which set us up perfectly when that happened, when the world stopped turning, to be a virtual team. And so finding the right people that will invest, that have the same level of passion and dedication, but can also work remote and do the job, that you don't have to worry about, well, are they really working? I think continues to be the hardest decision, because I've interviewed a lot of people that could have done, whatever the position was that they were interviewing for, but they weren't the right fit. They weren't going to elevate the team, because I have a motto with the team in our company: we succeed together and we fail together, regardless of the type of project. So I think everybody's kind of adopted that, and they understand whether it's a website design and development project, it doesn't mean that the digital marketing person isn't just as invested in the success of that project as the web developer is.
How do you keep a culture when it's all remote?
We do meet in person for sometimes it's monthly. We definitely do it quarterly. We go away. I let them choose where we do our strategic planning meetings.
Oh, fun.
For 2.5, 3 days. We had our latest one in Boston this past year, which was awesome. And then every meeting we have is on video. And then we all meet, you meet individually one-on-one with your manager weekly. So we have a full team meeting every Monday morning. That's how we kick off the week. And then we have what we call a coffee talk at 8:30 for 30 minutes on Wednesday. It's real casual. It's because I'm sure, can agree how quickly things move and projects move along. So it's just like a little touch base on Wednesday. And then we meet. Right? Everything is face to face. Nobody turns their camera off. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And culture is important in every organization. Yes. But how everything fits together in a marketing agency. Mm-hmm. If you're not all working together, as you described it, we win together, we lose together.
That's right.
And it's inevitable. And so how did you go about defining the culture so that you could express that to people?
That's kind of the culture that I had in the corporate world and how I ran the teams that I was lucky enough to be in charge of. And I start talking about it in the interview process, and then I live it. I think that is one of my strengths. I could spend all day telling you a list of my weaknesses, but my strengths are building really good teams because I believe in people and I treat them how I would want to be treated. I empower them. I try really hard to hire people that are smarter than myself because I believe that 5 heads are better than one, really. Mm-hmm. But you have to, I will not want something more for somebody than they want it for themselves.
Yeah.
I will give you all the tools. I'll give you all the rope, but I'm not going to do it for you. You have to want it more than I want it for you. And if I don't see that level of dedication and initiative, if you're not willing to come in and ask questions, and more importantly, if you're not willing to fail, because you are going to fail, because we all learn greater lessons from our failures than we do our successes, then it's not going to work. So that's kind of how and I admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because I think the team needs to hear when the leader's wrong, and they need to hear when the leader take accountability when things don't go right.
We recently created these communications principles, and one of them includes the accepting the idea that I might be wrong. And, and we have to have a lot of conversations. We're communications companies.
That's
and
right.
Communication and conflict have to occur. And I know you understand this. And so if you're not willing to maybe hear somebody else's opinion about what's going on, you're not going to have a healthy organization.
That's right.
And you're sounds like you espouse the same thing. I have this. You have to give people the responsibility and the authority to make decisions when you're not around.
Yes.
Because it will wear you out. We've got enough decisions to make already. I hired you for a good reason.
That's right.
Make a decision, and if you fail, then hey, we call that tuition.
That's right.
At our office.
That's right.
You got to learn.
And it makes you better.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of postmortems. There are sometimes you're in the marketing world, you'll pitch an account and you don't land it. What could we have done better?
Right.
Why didn't we? I always ask that question.
Or why did we take this on?
Or why did we take this on? Should we have taken this on?
Yeah.
Do we want to continue to target this type of, potential client in the future? All of those things, and giving people the ability to speak freely.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to speak last in the group whenever we meet. Sometimes that's difficult for me, but I make a concerted effort to do that. We had an RFP response yesterday, and I scheduled a postmortem afterwards. And I said, okay, how'd it go? How do you guys think it went? And I was the one that talked last.
Yeah.
And I do believe that our team feels like they can speak freely and they feel like they can disagree with me. And I'm glad. I'm glad. And you mentioned something about, they need to be empowered to do the work and make the decisions when you're not around. My husband and I recently went to Italy for 2 weeks, and I took my computer and I did not open it once.
That's awesome.
Now, that doesn't mean I didn't read email every day on my phone, but I did. And it's funny because I had been there maybe a day and a half, 2 days, and I started to respond, to give direction in an IM to my team. And I stopped myself and I thought, you know what? They've got this. Stop. And I didn't. I deleted what I was going to write and I let it ride. And it was awesome. And it was great. And they did a phenomenal job. And the world did not stop turning. And I needed it to unwind and downshift. So
it took me many years to say, what do you think? And just shut up. And then when I started doing that, I realized, oh my God, that was way better than what I was going to do. And it's amazing what happens when you ask people their opinions. You think you know it all because you're the boss.
And you don't.
You don't.
And I think something amazing happens when you're willing to listen.
Yeah. Because
sometimes I sit in a team meeting and I listen to the idea sharing back and forth. And I love what we call our brain sesh. We call them brain sessions when we're brainstorming and concepting for a client. And I just sit back sometimes and I realize how lucky I am to be surrounded with such an amazing group of talented people. And they're so smart. And if you listen, you'll realize how much you still have to learn, especially when they're younger and, they run digital marketing and you're like, oh my gosh, because that is an area that changes all weekly.
Do you feel like you manage them differently than you would a peer your age?
Yes.
How so?
I have experience that I bring with me from the corporate world that I managed people that were right out of college or college interns all the way to mid-60s. And how you manage them is very different. I think how you manage people anyway is different. And for me personally, I always choose based on their personality. Some people take constructive criticism better than others. The younger generation, I think you manage a little bit differently by allowing them to ask questions. You manage them differently in the communications on how you communicate with them, where you may want to send an email and they want to do everything in IM or text. I remember the first time this years ago, I got a text message from a director in the corporate world, and he was at that point in his, mid to late 20s, and he was asking me a question, and I responded, and he was like, "Perf," and I was like,
Thanks, bro.
And I was like, okay. And it made me chuckle. It made me feel old as dirt, but it made me chuckle. But you kind of have to roll with it and adapt. And so I started giving it right back to him. And I still sometimes will be funny if I'm in that kind of mood, and I'll respond back with perf. Or, I had our web developer sent me an IM the other day, and I was on the phone with a client, and I just responded back, dude, ... So you just kind of have to, you kind of have to be willing to be adaptable. But I think that also makes you approachable to them. And you also have to be willing to give them constructive criticism when you see certain traits, certain things that they're doing that they need not to do. Example, one of our younger, this was a few years ago, but one of our younger team members, she didn't even realize she was doing it. When she gets bored, she twirls her hair. Well, she was doing that in a meeting. She starts playing with her hair. And so I, took her aside after the meeting, and I said, hey, I need to give you, and that's what I always lead with. Hey, I need to give you some constructive criticism. And they're like, okay. And I said, you don't realize you're doing it, but you need to make a conscious effort not to twirl your hair in a meeting. And she was mortified. She was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. I was like, I know. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention. But you have to be willing to, we all needed help starting out. We didn't, oh my gosh, still need help. But, I believe I'm doing them a favor by pointing out things that will make them better. So.
Your experience in EO, what's that? How has that been like for you? What have you learned about yourself, or
that it's okay to be afraid? It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to know that when you have a bad quarter or sometimes even a bad year, that you can rebound and it's not the end of the world. And just being open-minded to knowing that you may have to pivot.
Marketing companies have to pivot? Really?
Yeah.
Have you not had to pivot?
No. Just every other month.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart.
Well, there's just been a lot of challenges in marketing anyway, with AI and then COVID and this.
The election. I mean, how many people told you, I'm not so sure I want to make a decision until after the election? It's like, well, what are you going to do?
Right.
What about this election is really going to change your mind?
Right.
Your business is still going to exist.
Lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Has that loosened now that's over? Are there people calling you back? Are they?
It has. It depends on the industry, honestly.
Yep.
It depends on the industry. But it didn't seem to halt things like the pandemic did.
Right.
The pandemic, it was like somebody threw up the parking brake, not just in marketing, but I think just across in general. So we weathered that storm. I was very, just pins and needles, just like every other business owner, but we were able to weather that storm. Luckily, we're already virtual, so we did not miss a beat.
Yeah.
We're in a position where thankfully we did not have to lay off and we didn't have to reduce salaries. We just kind of, we went on a hiring freeze and then went on, no one got raises that year, but we weathered it. And we did have to pivot for a lot of our clients that were directly impacted, were in hospitality or retail or things of that nature. So it does make you realize, you can come back, but sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and dig deep. So, and it takes the entire team. And the other thing too, that I do, I'm very transparent with the team, with the core team that we take on the retreats, and they know where we stand financially. They know the impact of, when we decided to resign an account, it was one of our largest accounts. And we talked about it as a team, and we talked about it for 6 months, and we ran through, and I said, okay, this is what it's going to mean from a revenue perspective. This is what it's going to mean. We have to refill the pipeline. I want to make sure everybody's on board with this. And we collectively, unanimously made the decision and resigned a particular account. And you just saw this fog lift, because sometimes you are working with a client that you're not the best fit. They're not the best fit for you. And it becomes a toxic kind of situation and can really hurt your culture. And what I saw was our team dreaded Monday afternoons because we met with the client on Monday afternoon and things of that nature. So we, made the decision collectively, and everybody was on board and understood what that meant. And then within, I think, 60 days, we had landed 3 new clients, and we didn't,
What does your ideal client look like?
I get that question a lot, and I don't know that there's really for us an answer. And here's what I mean by that. I love working with startups when they come to us and they say, can you help us figure out our brand identity? We do a lot of brand workshops where we'll sit down with either a new company or even an existing company that's been around for 30 years, and we'll sit down with their C-suite and we'll run through brand exercises to help them, do they have the right brand voice that's resonating, and what are their attributes now? What's the VOC? What are they saying? Are all the different things to make sure their positioning and their messaging is, aligned with what their corporate goals are. So we like working with a bunch of different, we're industry agnostic. I would say a company probably, I would say, minus the startups, which I do love startups, probably 5 million in assets on the small side, and we work with companies, all the Fortune 500 companies. But for me, it's about recognizing the importance of marketing, because not every company does. And it's okay for a company not to be necessarily marketing centric, because a lot are sales centric. But to understand the importance of marketing, allow marketing to have a seat at the table. I think we're most successful when I can leverage my experience as a C-level. I have a lot of experience dealing with boards, presenting to boards, been with companies that were public, were bought out by private equity, went private equity, flipped back to public. So I have all of that experience. So for me, as important as what the ad looks like, it's more about the strategy. And that's what I think I bring to the table. So our ideal client is a team of executives that embrace that mentality, that recognize that marketing actually kind of does fuel the engine, and sales and marketing work hand in glove. One really doesn't work without the other. And that branding is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's not, I get the question a lot, well, how can we be on the first page of Google? And I'm like, oh, how much time do you have? So there's no magic bullet with that, but you cannot bypass the strategy and jump right to what the color on the website is going to be.
It is a process.
It is a process. It is a process. And you're constantly fine-tuning the process, because most company objectives from a marketing perspective are brand awareness, lead generation. And then the third is a variable. It could be thought leadership. It could be customer retention and loyalty. It could be any number of other things, but brand awareness and lead generation are two of the most common marketing objectives.
What's the number one thing companies are doing wrong in marketing?
I think one of the things that they're doing wrong is assuming that social media or Google search is the only tactic that they need to do. What we have found is pre-pandemic, people needed to hear a message or see a message or engage with the brand in some form or fashion 3 to 5 times. Post-pandemic, it's 7 to 9 before it even resonates. So if you think about that and you stop and you think about how you personally as a consumer consume messaging and brands and how you interact with them, how inundated you are on a daily basis with different messages, how often you have to hear or see something, the commercial, hear the radio, view the podcast, see the digital banner, see something on LinkedIn before it resonates with you and solidifies for you to take action. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. It needs to be comprehensive and multifaceted. We've been talking with an existing client, and we have been all but begging them to do something more. And they're like, we just don't understand why we're not getting the amount of conversions we want from our LinkedIn ads, but that's all you're doing. It's not, we've been telling you for months, it's not a one tactic game anymore.
Yep.
I don't know if you're seeing the same thing.
It amazes me on Instagram. If I like one post by a company, I'm going to get 5 or 6 other competitors' ads showing up almost immediately.
Yes.
And so we assume that we've got an opportunity to sell something to somebody, and then all of a sudden, with all the data that's out there, other companies realize that you're in the market for something. And so you got to really stand out and get your message clear.
That's right.
And it's not easy. And it's a moving target because everybody else is changing and adjusting as well.
It's got to stink to know that you're technically marketing for other people that are on the sidelines ready to sell that same thing that you're pitching.
You are.
Yeah. It's a jungle.
It is. And with the changes in the algorithms and I think the education process never stops with the client, because we're always on our toes with learning all the new things that are coming out and being thrown, and the changes and the tweaks. And but another challenging area, I think, is explaining the importance of SEO to a client, the need for it, and how that's different than your organic is not going to put you on, the first page of Google. And here's, what you need to do. And it's an entire, you can just see people's eyes roll back in their head. I mean, that don't live it on
and
a daily
now
basis.
so many people are not doing their search in Google.
Yeah,
they're in chat.
GPT.
How do you get ranked in chat? Like it gets so
Or
deep.
the number one search engine right now is TikTok.
Yep.
So it's just, you have to be, and convincing and communicating to clients who may have a very limited budget. So I have yet to meet a company that has an open checkbook. I hope
Still
one
waiting
day.
too.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
waiting. But you have to be and meet them where your target audience, where they are. There are portions of your target audience that are going to respond to an email. There are portions that are only going to respond to an SMS text, that only get their information on TikTok. That you have to be willing to have a multifaceted strategy and approach, or you're not going to end up achieving what you want to achieve.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you are in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're an entrepreneur and maybe you feel a little bit alone, I know I felt alone in my entrepreneurial career. Well, there is a community for you, EO. You can visit us at eonashville.com. Learn more about how we help entrepreneurs feel like they belong to a family, and join a forum and get together every single month and talk about what's working and what's not working. If you're interested, there's over 350 of us right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Please visit and reach out. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.